For this question, the most important word is the word change. You need to find a change, but not the new total revenue or the initial total revenue. So if you are asked to find out the change, what you need to do, so first of all, you need to compare the initial region and the new region. And afterwards, besides the diagram, you need to write gain or loss and shade the regions. But you shouldn't write down change in your answer. So I haven't told you to write down change in your answer, right? So we always write down gain or loss or both of them in your answer. So these two are the things you have to do. And I figured out that many of you didn't know how to find out the change in the examination. And let me reteach you how to find out the change. That means the gain or the loss. And let me go to case 1 here. So this is just for actually kindergarten students to do. So if initially we have the circle, so now we have the triangle. So can you figure out actually which part is the gain and which part is the loss? So initially this is the circle. Now we have the triangle. Which part is the gain? So this part here is the gain. This is an area where initially we haven't got it, and now we have got it. And this part should be the gain, right? And how about the loss? The loss should be this part here. So this part should be the loss. And let me go to point 2, case 2. If initially we have got the circle, and now we have a triangle, which is much smaller and inside the circle. So this time, do we have gain or loss? So we have the loss, right? So we can have this part being the loss. So what I want to tell you based on these two cases is that whenever you need to find a gain or the loss, what you have to do is you need to figure out where the initial region is and where the new region is. If you have the initial region, the new region, you just compare the differences and you can find out the gain, the loss, or both of them. So let me go to case 3 to really do something like that in the demand supply diagram. So in this case, we have already got the price and also the quantity transited. Initially, what do we have? So initially, we have P1 times Q1. Now what we have is P2 times Q2. And if you compare these two rectangles, then you can shade this part, which is the gain. Alright, so I do not write down the whole stuff, but you should be able to get it by yourself. Then for case 4, so initially where is it? So we have P1 times Q1. Now where is it? So we have P2 times Q2. So you can see that there are two parts that you have to consider. The upper part and also the part on the right hand side. And the part on the right hand side, because Q increases, so this part should be the gain, right? And the other part, that means this part here, should be the loss. So we have the answer for question 4. Now for case 5, again, so we have to figure out where the initial is. The initial will be price times Q1, so this rectangle. The new one should be price times Q2. And obviously, we have a large rectangle with this part as the gain. So you can see that what you have to do to find out the change, just compare the initial and the new. Then you can obviously find out the change. Then the next part will be P1 times Q. And we have the new one, P2 times Q. And this part here should be the loss. Then the next one would be the initial will be P1 times Q1, and then we have P2 times Q2, and obviously we have also got the loss here. And the last one, we have P1 times Q1 initially, And now we have P2 times Q2, sorry. So we have P2 times Q2. And finally, we can find out the gain loss. So this part should be the loss. And this part here should be the gain, because we now get it and we initially haven't got it. So you can see that from these examples, so we have just gone through case 3, 4 up to 8. You can see that no matter what, the region, that means the gain or the loss, must be either the rectangle or somehow just like point 7, we have the L shape. Okay, so this is the L shape. So if you reverse or rotate the diagram, then you have an L here. So we can't have any triangle or trapezium. And I don't know why some of you in the examination, you gave me trapezium or even triangle. They are not correct. So the regions must be rectangle and L shape. And if you compare the initial and the new calculate, you must be able to get it. And now let me go back to the question and see where the region is. So this is the diagram we obtained in part A in the previous part. And what we have to find out is a change in the producer's total revenue. So initially, of course, we have 3 prices here. Which price we have to consider initially? Must be P1 times Q1, right? Okay, no choice. So we only have one of them with the notation 1, okay, which represent initial, right? So no choice, it must be P1 times Q1. For the new one, there are 2 choices. So we have P2 and also P2 minus test. And of course, if we consider producers, and they only earn P2 minus test, they only earn P2 minus test, and we have to consider these. And for the Q, of course, we consider Q2. Then somehow, if we compare the region, initially we have these. Now we have this. If you compare the rectangles, obviously you have the L shape being the loss. So this part should be the loss. This is reasonable as we have test. Producers should earn less. So this part should be the loss.